Okay, is it still running? Yep. Sound clapper. Good evening and welcome to BarbWire Strategy. My name is Colonel Jim Ed Love, and I'm very happy that you've decided to join me for this fourth episode. This is the fourth episode of BarbWire Strategy Season 3, where we're doing a 5-episode series, multiple films sometimes within all of those episodes, but 5 main topics, and that is on my wood shop. And just to update those who haven't caught along, and this is maybe your first filmed watch of this series, my wood shop, my garage collapsed back in February due to the ice storm in Texas. It burst pipe, caused the water to leak all over the ceiling, and it came tumbling down. And I spent the last, 5 months, now 6, repairing and renovating my shop, and I put a very unique ceiling in. And I just finished five films. It was supposed to be 1, but 5 films on the ceiling. I went over in detail everything that I did to it, all the problems that posed. So if you haven't gotten a chance to see those, then there's a link I'll put up there at the top, and you go back and watch the first one through number 5. It's about an hour and 15 minutes in all, but I try to make these only about 15 minutes apiece. But let me get straight to the point of this show, and that is that this is on painting and lights, painting specifically on my garage, my wood shop, and lights, new shop lights in my garage. So we have lights and painting. And we have Bob Ross here to illustrate the point that this is on painting. Painting, first off, I'm going to start on the lights. And this is probably going to be 2 films. It could be 3, and I'm not going to predict right now how many it'll be. It's so hard because I'll record all this material, and I'll think that I'm just going to do 1 film or 2 films. But then I look at the material, and I say, well, gosh, I've got so much material, and I want to present all of it. And then it ends up being, like on the ceiling, it was supposed to be 1 film, ended up being 5. So this, I'm going to say right off the bat, there'll definitely be a show on lights, which is this one, and then the next one will be painting, but the episode is painting and lights. So anyway, without further ado, lights. I'll show you the lights that I used to have in the shop and versus the lights that I have put in. Now, I didn't use these actual. This is probably one of the light bulbs that came out of the top of the ceiling of the garage. Anyway, I thought about, at first, whenever the ceiling collapsed and I did the renovation, I thought to myself, well, there's no reason to go out and buy more lights. I mean, I had 5 good shop lights that I'd been using for a couple of decades. Now, what I did is when I had recycled my old wood shop, and then when I rebuilt this wood shop, what I used is these lights right here. Right here. These lights are the old style, and they work great. I had 5 of them set up here. Then whenever the ceiling collapsed, and Tom and Mark talked me into, I think Hatley did too, into putting up new lights, I investigated, and when I did, I said, yeah, these are the way to go. But I had all these lights, so what do you do with these? So what I did is I hung all of the LEDs on that side of the garage, and because right here is the garage door and nothing, if you have it up, which most of the time when I'm working in here, this is up, so therefore it doesn't do any good to put lights up here unless you close the garage door, and that's only maybe during certain parts of the winter. I still have it up during the winter. So what I decided to do was to take my old lights and hang them here above these Elva shelves, and they're suspended on these little cables, and then I put 2 of them over there, and then I've got 2 in the attic. And so now we have the LEDs on this side, and then when I get these plugged in, then I'll have light on this side, which the light here will be over my workbenches, which is exactly where you want it. Some of them came from Recycle It when I had Recycle It up and running back in the 1990s. I thought, well, there's no reason for me to go out and buy new lights. But after talking it over with my 404 club, what I call our smoking club, where we smoke cigars and solve world problems, I was encouraged by several people, including Mark Sebastian and Tom Shavers, to look into getting LED lights for the shop. They both said that they had been advanced over time and that lighting was a whole different deal now than it was back in the 1990s. I thought, well, I'll take a look at these LEDs that they're talking about. And sure enough, I went over to Costco and I found a set of LEDs for a reasonable price. I'm very satisfied with my lights. They light the place up. They light the place up almost as much as these film lights do. And they even have a little controller, a remote controller, that I can dim them, or I can have them set to where a timer where they'll maybe go off after a certain amount of time. I don't really like that. I don't use that. But I mean, I just turn them off and on. And at first I thought, because my old lights, you'd go and you'd have to pull the chain. So every time I went into the shop, because I didn't have them hooked into the power grid where I could hit the switch, every time I went into my shop and I want to turn the lights on, I had to walk around the shop and click every light and turn it on. Well, now I don't have to do that. I simply have to take one of the 5 remotes that I have, point it up in the air, and hit the button, and bingo, they all come on. Each light came with a remote, and here you see 3 of them, and it has a whole bunch of buttons on it, like you're going to launch into outer space. But the buttons that count the most is this one right here, the on-off button, or at least that's the one that I fiddle with. When you first get these, all of these things, the off on this side, all these that say off, I turn these all off. And then if you're going to dim them, where I was dimming them right here is right here. You dim them down or dim them up. And I think I read the directions, and I think this is like a nighttime button. So if you set it up down here, the lights will go off if there hasn't been any movement, because they've got a motion sensor on them. And then all you have to do is point to the lights right here, and they go off. But see, now to get them all off, you got to make sure you hit them from the right direction. So what I have to do is I have to stand about right here, and then I have to go like that. I hit the wrong button. I have to go like that. And now, oh well, they're still on. So what you do here to turn them off is you take your remote and you kind of, I have to position it in the right spot, and they all go off. There we go, bingo. See, here's what the lights look like without them being on. You can actually see them a little bit better. And it's very convenient. When it comes time to turn them off, I just hit it and they all go off. And I can even do it from my porch or from outside, or, well, I can't do it from inside the library here because the remote doesn't go through the wall, which is probably a good thing because I wouldn't want to accidentally hit it. So let's go out in the garage and I'll show you those lights so that you can see for yourself how efficient and wonderful they are. Now, the real test is that my old lights lasted me for 2 decades, some of them. Will these last for 2 decades? I doubt it. I doubt seriously. But if they will last at least 5 years, before I have to replace them, I'll be happy. So long as I can replace them. That's another deal. I guess if I can't replace them, then I can always use my old lights because I kept them all. One thing that I didn't bring up during the recording of this originally that is a vital part that I need to tell you about right now, and that is the light units that I bought, the LEDs that I'm talking about. They're all encompassing. In other words, the light bulb in them is permanently in them. You cannot change the light bulb out. It caused me to pause and think about whether I wanted to go forward with these or not back when I was buying them. And I had to get used to the idea of not changing light bulbs out because I, like a lot of other people my age and older, we like things done exactly the way they've done in the past. We're used to changing light bulbs when they burn out and not having to replace the entire lighting unit. However, these were cheap enough to where basically replacing the light bulbs would cost about the same as replacing the entire unit. And I guess it kind of goes along with our throwaway culture that we live in. But nonetheless, I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention that these light bulbs could not be taken out that when they eventually burn out, supposedly they last 5 or 10 years, and when they do eventually burn out, then the whole thing just has to be thrown away and you go out and buy another one. But I wanted to mention that because it is, to me, an important component and one that I would want to know about if down the road I was putting these in and I didn't already have them. I had to kind of get over that shock of not being able to change the light bulb out. And now back to my recording. And in fact, I decided that I would put some of the lights that I have from my old wood shop up in the attic, and some of them are on my workbenches. I'll show those to you too. Here's the lights up close. I'll put the brand, if I can find the box, I'll put the brand in the box. And they're about, I think they're about 3.5 feet long. There's the end. And if you notice at the very end, now there's where the plug is right there. And then over here on this end, it has to where you can plug the other one in. So this one right here is plugged into this one. And you can plug them in all together. You can rub them together. Now I don't have them all roped together. I've got that one over there and this one right here plugged into this one. And then this one is plugged into the current. And then I've got this one plugged into the current directly and that one plugged into the current directly. Simply because that's how they're configured and the cords really aren't long enough to do a complete circuit all the way around. I would have had to hung them different. And the way I hung them is I got a drill bit to match this shaft. This is a screw shaft. And of course, right here you see a screw, and that means there's a ceiling joist up here. All of it where you see the screws are ceiling joists. And so I just found a good spot. I measured it from, where it was from being in the middle of the room, this one, and then I drilled this, and then I went in and put it in. Wasn't any problem at all to put these in. In fact, the lights went up the easiest of anything that I've done. The painting, the painting or the putting the ceiling up itself, fixing the plumbing, the lights was the easiest. And then I use these carabiners to hang them right here on these hooks. And they're very light too. They're extremely light, the lights are. Well, that's all I have for you. This is Colonel Jim Ed Love and BarbWire Strategy, and I'm so happy that you were able to join me. Now, this video, of course, on lights has come to an end, and the next video that you need to tune in for is going to be on paint. Don't miss all of the interesting things that I have to say about paint. We'll see you later. Good evening.